The massive Xyraxian exploration vessel emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. On the command deck, Intelligence Officer Krelvax studied the blue-green planet with 6 slitted eyes. His scaled fingers tapped across the floating display as data streamed in about this newly discovered civilization. "Remarkable," he muttered, reviewing the information. "These humans have progressed from primitive agriculture to basic space travel in less than 10,000 years." High Commander Jorax strode onto the bridge, his ceremonial cape flowing behind him. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, he towered over the other Xyraxians. His presence commanded immediate attention. "Tell me about these creatures," Jorax demanded, staring at the planet Earth. Krelvax straightened his posture. "They call themselves humans. They're adaptable, surprisingly resilient, and extremely diverse in their thinking. They've survived multiple extinction-level events through sheer determination." "Primitive weapons?" Jorax asked. "Yes, but advancing quickly. They've split the atom, developed rudimentary AI, and established colonies on their moon and the 4th planet." Dr. Eliax, the Confederation's lead xenobiologist, approached with a worried expression. "Commander, I've been studying their historical records. These humans have spent most of their history at war with each other. They've developed remarkable survival skills and military tactics." Jorax waved a dismissive hand. "Every species has conflict in their early development." "This is different," Dr. Eliax insisted. "Their adaptability is unlike anything we've encountered. When faced with overwhelming odds, they become more creative, more determined. I strongly advise caution." Jorax scoffed. "Look at their technology. They've barely left their own planet. The Confederation has conquered systems far more advanced. On Earth, the detection of an alien vessel caused global panic followed by cautious preparation. In Washington, D.C., President Olivia Mitchell met with her advisors in a secure underground facility. "We need representatives who can show strength without aggression," the president said, reviewing files on a tablet. "People who understand diplomacy, but can think on their feet if things go wrong." General Frank Bennett nodded. "I recommend Ambassador Alan Carter. He's handled tough negotiations in war zones and has a calm demeanor under pressure." "Good choice," the president agreed. "And for military perspective, Lieutenant Samantha Wright," the general replied without hesitation. "Top of her class in tactical thinking, multilingual, and has a background in anthropology. She understands different cultures." 3 days later, the chosen representatives waited nervously at the designated landing site in a remote area of Wyoming. A small silver craft descended from the Xyraxian mothership. Ambassador Carter straightened his tie. "Remember, we represent all of humanity now." Lieutenant Wright nodded, her hand resting near her concealed sidearm. "Let's hope they come in peace." Back on the Xyraxian command ship, the Council debated their approach. "These humans occupy a resource-rich system," Resource Director Pelax noted. "Their outer colonies have rare minerals we need for our expansion." Dr. Eliax shook his head. "The historical data is concerning. When threatened, these humans unite despite their differences. They've developed most of their technology during wartime." "Enough." Jorax silenced the debate. "We are the Galactic Confederation. We have subjugated 100 species across 3 galactic arms. These primitive creatures will either serve our needs or be pacified." Krelvax exchanged worried glances with Dr. Eliax, but remained silent. The first meeting between species went smoothly on the surface. The humans presented gifts and spoke of peaceful cooperation. The Xyraxians offered technology and knowledge. As the alien delegation returned to their ship, Ambassador Carter turned to Lieutenant Wright. "What do you think?" Wright's expression was grim. "They looked at us the way colonizers looked at indigenous people throughout our history. They're assessing our value and our threat level." Carter nodded. "Then we'd better make sure we're not underestimated." In his private chambers, Jorax reviewed the meeting footage. "Begin preparations for resource extraction from their outer colonies," he ordered. "These humans will be easily managed." In the shadows of the room, Dr. Eliax whispered to Krelvax. They always ignore the warnings until it's too late. 5 years after first contact, Earth had changed. The initial excitement of meeting an advanced alien civilization had faded into unease. The Xeraxians shared only limited technology, mainly things that made resource extraction more efficient. They established trading posts on Earth, but kept their best advancements secret. On a crisp autumn morning, the skies above major cities worldwide suddenly darkened. Massive Xeraxian warships appeared, far larger than the diplomatic vessels humans had seen before. Global defense systems went offline simultaneously. In the White House Situation Room, President Olivia Mitchell watched the largest ship position itself above Washington, D.C. "Get me any working communications," she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. The main screen flickered to life. High Commander Jorax's scaled face filled the display, his expression smug. "People of Earth," he began, "the time for pretense is over. The Galactic Confederation requires your resource-rich colonies on Mars and Europa. You will withdraw all personnel within 30 Earth days." General Frank Bennett stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" Jorax's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "Then we demonstrate what pacification means. You have seen only a fraction of our capabilities." The transmission ended abruptly. President Mitchell looked around the room at the grim faces of her advisors. "Options?" she asked. "Direct military engagement would be suicide," General Bennett admitted. "Their technology outmatches ours significantly." "Then we surrender?" asked the Secretary of State. "No," said a voice from the back of the room. Chief Engineer Diane Powell stood up. She was rarely included in security briefings, but today was different. "We've been preparing for this possibility." She placed a small device on the table. It projected a hologram of a weapons system. After first contact, a small team began reverse engineering what little Xeraxian technology we could access. "We've made breakthroughs they don't know about." President Mitchell leaned forward. "Will it be enough?" "Not for a direct confrontation," Powell said honestly, "but enough for something else." General Bennett nodded thoughtfully. "Guerrilla warfare. Hit-and-run tactics. We appear to comply while secretly preparing." In orbit above Earth, Krelvax approached Dr. Eliax in a private corridor. "This approach is a mistake," Krelvax whispered. "You warned them about human adaptability." Dr. Eliax looked tired. "Jorax believes overwhelming force will crush their spirit. He doesn't understand that throughout human history, oppression has only fueled their resistance." "The Council should know this," Krelvax insisted. "The Council sees only the resources to be gained," Dr. Eliax replied. "By the time they realize their error, it may be too late." On Mars Colony Alpha, Colonel Peter Martinez gathered the settlement's 3,000 residents in the main dome. "The official response from Earth is that we're complying with the Xeraxian demands," he announced. "Officially, evacuation begins tomorrow." A wave of angry murmurs swept through the crowd. Unofficially, Martinez continued, quieting them. "No one's leaving. Those who wish to fight will stay and form the first resistance cell. Those who don't will appear to evacuate but will actually be relocated to the hidden facilities in the southern caverns." A young engineer raised her hand. "They'll notice if no one leaves." Martinez smiled. "That's why our departure ships will be running on autopilot, empty except for enough life signs to fool their sensors." Back on Earth, Lieutenant Samantha Wright met Ambassador Alan Carter in a secure location deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. "I've been assigned to your team," she told him. "We're to make the Xeraxians believe we're cooperating while gathering intelligence on their weaknesses." Carter nodded grimly. "Like playing chess when the opponent doesn't realize there's a game." "Exactly," Wright replied. "And we need to recruit allies from within the Confederation. Not all species approve of Xeraxian methods." In his command chamber, Jorax received the first reports of human compliance. "You see," he told his officers, "they recognize superior power. Begin moving harvesting equipment to the Mars colony immediately." In the corner, Dr. Eliax watched silently, wondering how long it would take before the humans showed their true response. History suggested it wouldn't be what the Xeraxians expected. And history, especially human history, had a way of repeating itself. 3 months after the Xeraxian ultimatum, Mars Colony Alpha operated under alien control. Massive mining machines tore into the red soil, extracting rare minerals vital to Confederation technology. Xeraxian overseers watched as the remaining human workers operated equipment under guard. What they didn't see were the eyes watching from hidden tunnels beneath the Martian surface. Colonel Peter Martinez lowered his binoculars and crawled back from his observation point. In the dimly lit underground base, 24 resistance fighters waited for his report. Their North Quadrant security is weakest during shift changes, he told them, pointing to a rough map on the table. That's when we strike. A young soldier named Greg looked nervous. Sir, they outnumber us 10 to 1, with superior weapons. Martinez smiled. But we have what they don't: intimate knowledge of the terrain and nothing to lose. That night, as Martian winds howled across the surface, 3 small teams moved silently toward the mining operations power generators. They carried special explosive devices developed by Chief Engineer Powell's team. The first explosion was timed to look like an accident, a simple equipment failure. As Xeraxian security forces rushed to contain the damage, 2 more explosions hit in quick succession. On his flagship in Earth orbit, Commander Jorax received the report with growing anger. Another equipment failure, he snarled. That's the 5th this month. Krelvax studied the data carefully. The pattern suggests deliberate sabotage, Commander. Impossible, Jorax replied. The humans are primitive and obedient. They've shown no resistance. Dr. Eliax, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. If I may, Commander, this is precisely what human history predicted. They appear to submit while organizing underground resistance. Jorax dismissed the concern with a wave. Increase security and execute any human caught interfering with operations. Meanwhile, in a Confederation research facility on Europa, Dr. Lisa Campbell worked diligently in her lab. To the Xeraxians, she was just another human scientist assisting with research, selected for her brilliant mind, but presumed to be compliant. They didn't know she memorized everything she saw, building a mental database of Confederation technology weaknesses. Each night, she transmitted coded messages disguised as routine system checks. Her latest discovery was significant. Xeraxian shield technology operated on a fluctuating frequency. With precise timing, a much weaker weapon could penetrate during microsecond vulnerabilities. In the facility's dining area, Dr. Campbell sat alone until a Confederation scientist named Vreen approached. Unlike the Xeraxians, Vreen's species had joined the Confederation through similar pacification generations ago. Your work is impressive, Vreen said quietly. I've never seen anyone solve quantum alignment issues so quickly. Lisa nodded cautiously. Just doing my job. Vreen leaned closer. Some of us have watched Earth's response with interest. Not all Confederation members agree with Xeraxian methods. Lisa kept her expression neutral, though her heart raced. I wouldn't know anything about that. Of course not, Vreen replied. But hypothetically, information about upcoming security protocol changes might help prevent accidents. That evening, Lisa sent an urgent encoded message. There were potential allies within the Confederation itself. Back on Earth, in the underwater base beneath the Pacific Ocean, Ambassador Carter reviewed the latest intelligence with Lieutenant Wright. Dr. Campbell's information is crucial, Wright said. And this potential contact from within the Confederation could change everything. Carter nodded. Our window is coming. The Xeraxians are growing frustrated with the Mars resistance and getting sloppy. Wright pulled up a secure display showing a hidden facility on the far side of the moon. And they still have no idea about our secret production facilities. The massive underground lunar hangar contained dozens of ships under construction. Earth had publicly surrendered its military space fleet, but privately, engineers worked day and night building vessels incorporating the stolen Xeraxian technology. Captain Eric Daniels inspected the newest ship, its hull gleaming under the artificial lights. "How soon can it be ready?" he asked the chief engineer. "2 more weeks," came the reply. "Sooner if we get those shield frequency codes from Dr. Campbell." Daniels nodded. "The Xeraxians think we're beaten. They have no idea what's coming." On his flagship, Jorax stared at reports of decreasing efficiency from all human colonies. "Find the troublemakers," he ordered. "Make examples of them." Dr. Eliax exchanged glances with Krelvax. The warnings about humans were proving true, but neither dared say, "I told you so." Not yet. 6 months into the occupation, the Xeraxians believed they were dealing with scattered resistance groups. What they didn't know was that humanity had been planning something much bigger. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a vast cavern hollowed out years before first contact, Admiral Kelly Ramirez walked along a metal catwalk. Below her, hundreds of engineers and technicians swarmed over sleek spacecraft, unlike anything Earth had publicly acknowledged possessing. "Status report," she said to the man walking beside her. Engineer Ryan Cooper consulted his tablet. "The first 50 ships are ready. We've installed the modified shield technology based on Dr. Campbell's intelligence. The new propulsion system exceeds our expectations." "And the weapons?" Ramirez asked. "That's where we got lucky," Cooper replied with a slight smile. "Turns out the Xeraxians never imagined we'd develop quantum pulse technology because our power generation was supposedly too primitive. They didn't guard against it." Admiral Ramirez nodded. "And they still have no idea this facility exists." "None. We keep feeding them fake radiation readings from old nuclear tests. Their sensors avoid this entire region." On the Xeraxian command ship, Intelligence Officer Krelvax frowned at his console. Something wasn't right. Resource extraction was falling behind schedule on all colonies despite increased security, and strange energy readings occasionally appeared at the edges of their sensor range near Earth's moon. He brought his concerns to Dr. Eliax in private. "The resistance is too coordinated," Krelvax said quietly. "These aren't isolated incidents anymore." Dr. Eliax nodded. "Commander Jorax refuses to recognize the pattern. In human history, this is how major counteroffensives begin, with the appearance of random, disconnected events that are actually carefully planned distractions." "We should investigate the lunar readings," Krelvax suggested. "Agreed, but quietly. If we're wrong, Jorax will have us reassigned to the outer territories." The next day, 3 Xeraxian scout ships approached the far side of the moon under orders to investigate unusual radiation patterns. They expected to find nothing important. In the Lunar Base Command Center, alarms flashed. "Incoming Xeraxian scouts," announced the sensor operator. "They're heading straight for us." Admiral Ramirez's expression remained calm. "How many completed ships can we launch immediately?" 12 are fully operational, Admiral." "Launch them." She pressed a button on her command console. "All personnel to battle stations. Operation First Strike is now active." The massive hidden doors on the lunar surface slid open. 12 Earth vessels, smaller than Xeraxian warships but sleeker and more maneuverable, shot into space. They moved with astonishing speed, using the propulsion system Cooper had perfected. The Xeraxian scouts barely had time to send a warning signal. The Earth ships surrounded them, weapons charged. Captain Eric Daniels spoke from the lead Earth vessel. "This is your only warning. Surrender or be destroyed." The Xeraxian captain laughed. "Human vessels? Impossible. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields." "Actually," Daniels replied, "we've made some improvements." The Earth ships fired simultaneously. Quantum pulse weapons, calibrated to the exact frequency vulnerability Dr. Campbell had discovered, sliced through the Xeraxian shields as if they weren't there. 2 scout ships exploded instantly. The third managed to transmit a partial distress signal before meeting the same fate. On his flagship, Commander Jorax received the broken transmission with disbelief. Human warships, impossible, he roared. They surrendered their fleet months ago. Krelvax and Dr. Eliax exchanged glances. This was exactly what they had feared. Commander, Krelvax said, I believe we've been deceived. The humans have been building ships in secret and developing weapons specifically designed to counter our technology, added Dr. Eliax. Jorax's scales darkened with rage. Launch all battle cruisers. I want those human ships destroyed immediately. But as the Xeraxian fleet mobilized, more Earth vessels emerged from the lunar base. Dozens, then scores of ships formed a defensive line around Earth. Admiral Ramirez opened a communication channel to all Earth forces. The time for hiding is over, she announced. Operation Thunderstrike is now active. All resistance cells begin synchronized attacks. Across Mars, Europa, and every human colony, carefully planted explosives detonated at exactly the same moment. Resistance fighters emerged from hiding, and in orbit, the first true space battle between humans and the Confederation began. The Xeraxians were about to learn just how badly they had underestimated humanity. News of the human victory in the lunar battle spread quickly through the Confederation communication network. The Xeraxians tried to control the narrative, claiming it was a minor setback against criminals. But the truth could not be contained. On the planet Tellus, home of the Tellurians who had served the Xeraxians for 3 generations, Council Elder Moxinar watched the leaked battle footage with growing interest. These humans defeated 3 scout ships with technology they shouldn't possess, he told his inner circle. Now they stand against the main Xeraxian fleet. Is it time? Asked his second-in-command. Moxinar nodded slowly. Prepare a ship. We must contact these humans directly. In Earth orbit, the battle had reached a stalemate. The human fleet was outnumbered, but had the advantage of superior speed and the ability to penetrate Xeraxian shields. Several Confederation warships had been destroyed, but the humans had also suffered losses. On the flagship of Earth's fleet, Admiral Ramirez received an unexpected communication request. It's not from the Xeraxian fleet, reported her communications officer. It's from a small vessel approaching from outside the system. They identify as Tellurians. Ramirez raised an eyebrow. The Xeraxians' oldest allies. Put them through, but be ready to cut transmission at the first sign of trouble. The screen showed a tall, gray-skinned being with 4 arms and large, thoughtful eyes. I am Moxinar of Tellus, he said. My people wish to speak with your leaders about a matter of mutual interest. 2 days later, in a secure location on Earth's moon, Ambassador Nicole Grant met with the Tellurian delegation. As Earth's foremost diplomat, she had been hastily recalled from underground operations. Let me be direct, said Moxinar after formal introductions. For generations, my people have served the Xeraxians because we believed they were invincible. Your resistance proves otherwise. Ambassador Grant nodded. We fight for our freedom and our right to exist without Xeraxian control. My people wish for the same, Moxinar replied. We propose an alliance. We have intimate knowledge of Confederation weaknesses, fleet movements, and communication codes. And in return, Grant asked cautiously, we want what you fight for. Independence and recognition, as equals in whatever new order emerges. While negotiations continued, the Xeraxian command was in crisis. Several minor species had already declared neutrality in the conflict. Supply lines were disrupted by sabotage. Commander Jorax paced his chamber, scales flaring with anger. How is this happening? They are primitives. How did they develop weapons that bypass our shields? Dr. Eliax finally spoke the truth. They adapted, Commander. As their history showed they would. They observed, learned, and created solutions specifically designed to counter our advantages. Impossible without help, Jorax insisted. There must be traitors within the Confederation. At that moment, alarms blared throughout the ship. The main communication hub reported massive system failures. Across Confederation space, doubt spread like wildfire. The Vexari, a powerful trading species, publicly questioned Xeraxian leadership. The Krith, warriors almost as feared as the Xeraxians, recalled their ships from joint operations. On Earth, President Mitchell addressed the United Nations. Screens around the world showed her determined face. "For months, we appeared to submit while secretly preparing," she said. "Today, I can reveal we are not fighting alone. Species throughout the Confederation who suffered under Xeraxian rule are joining our cause." The chamber erupted in cheers as Ambassador Grant entered with Moxinar and representatives from 7 other species, all former Confederation members now allied with Earth. Back on the Xeraxian flagship, Krelvax received the reports with a sense of grim vindication. "The Tellurians have officially broken their alliance," he informed Commander Jorax, "along with the Vexari Trading Guild and 3 mining collectives." Jorax's face darkened. "The Confederation has stood for 1,000 years. This is temporary insanity." Dr. Elax shook his head sadly. "This is what happens when warnings are ignored, Commander. The humans have done what no other species dared. They've shown the Confederation is not invincible." For the first time, real fear showed in Jorax's eyes. The Confederation was beginning to collapse, and it had all started with one underestimated species that refused to accept defeat. The balance of power across the galaxy was shifting, and humanity stood at the center of the change. In a secure laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Marcus Howard had not slept in 3 days. Dark circles shadowed his eyes as he studied the captured Xeraxian communication device. Around him, a team of scientists watched anxiously. "There," he said finally, pointing to a complex pattern on his screen. "Their quantum communication network has a fundamental flaw. They built it for efficiency, not security." The team leader leaned closer. "Can we exploit it?" Dr. Howard nodded slowly. "We can do more than that. We can collapse their entire communication network with a cascading quantum interference pulse." Within hours, this discovery was transmitted to Earth's military command. Admiral Ramirez immediately called a joint meeting with their alien allies. "This is our opportunity," she told the assembled leaders. "Without their communication network, the Xeraxian fleet will be in chaos. Each ship will be isolated, unable to coordinate attacks." Commander Julia Barnes, leader of Earth's Special Operations Forces, stood up. "My team can deliver the device, but we'll need to reach their central communication hub in the Proxima Centauri system." Moxinar, the Tellurian leader, nodded thoughtfully. "The hub is heavily guarded, but I know of a maintenance access route. My engineers helped build it. With a small, fast ship, a strike team might reach it undetected." 2 days later, a joint human-Tellurian Special Forces team boarded a modified stealth vessel. Commander Barnes checked her equipment one last time as her team of 6 humans and 4 Tellurians prepared for the most important mission of the war. "Remember," she told them, "we only get one shot at this. If the device fails or we're discovered too soon, the entire operation fails." The stealth ship slipped away from the Earth fleet, activating its experimental cloaking technology as it accelerated toward Proxima Centauri. Meanwhile, the main Earth fleet, now joined by ships from 7 former Confederation species, prepared for the largest battle in human history. Captain Daniels addressed the pilots under his command. "Once the communication hub goes down, we launch Operation Thunderstrike. Every Xeraxian command ship must be engaged simultaneously before they can establish alternative communication methods." On the Xeraxian flagship, Commander Jorax gathered his most loyal officers. His once pristine uniform was now wrinkled, his scales dull from stress and lack of sleep. "The Confederation Council demands answers," he told them grimly. "They question my handling of this human problem. Some even suggest negotiation." His second-in-command looked shocked. "Negotiate? With primitives who attacked us?" "Exactly," Jorax snarled. "We must crush this rebellion decisively. Prepare for a full-scale assault on Earth. We will make an example of them that no species will ever forget." What Jorax didn't know was that Commander Barnes' team had already reached the communication hub. Moving silently through maintenance tunnels with Tellurian guidance, they placed quantum interference devices at key junction points. "All charges set," reported Barnes over a secure channel. "Activating in 3, 2, 1. Across Confederation space, communication systems suddenly went silent. Emergency backups failed to activate. Ship commanders found themselves unable to contact their fleet or receive orders. On his flagship, Jorax watched in horror as every screen went dark. "What's happening?" he demanded. Krelvax worked frantically at his console. "Our entire communication network is down. It appears to be a targeted attack on our quantum relays." "Impossible," Jorax shouted. "No species has that technology." Dr. Eliax spoke quietly. "The humans continue to show remarkable adaptability, Commander. They learn, they innovate, and they find weaknesses we didn't know existed." Before Jorax could respond, the ship rocked violently. Outside, Earth ships appeared alongside vessels from former Confederation worlds. Operation Thunderstrike had begun. Captain Daniel's voice came through on an open channel, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Attention Zyraxian vessels. Your communication network is disabled. Your Confederation is fracturing. Surrender now or face the combined forces of Earth and its allies." Jorax stared at the viewscreen in disbelief. Human ships were attacking with precision and coordination while his own fleet drifted in confusion without central command. For the first time, he understood. The warnings about humans had been correct, and the Zyraxians were about to pay the price for ignoring them. The Battle of Proxima Centauri lasted 17 hours. Without their communication network, the once mighty Zyraxian fleet fell into disarray. Some ships fought desperately while others attempted to flee. The combined forces of Earth and its new allies pressed their advantage, targeting command vessels with precision strikes. On the bridge of his damaged flagship, Commander Jorax watched his empire crumble. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across his face as he turned to Dr. Eliax. "You warned me," Jorax admitted finally, "about the humans, about their adaptability." Dr. Eliax nodded sadly. "History tried to warn us all. Their entire evolution was built on overcoming superior predators and impossible odds." Jorax looked out at the battle. His ship shuddered as another barrage hit their weakened shields. "The Confederation Council is demanding I surrender to prevent further losses. Perhaps it is time," Krelvax suggested gently, "to save what remains." After a long moment, Jorax straightened his posture. "Open a channel to the human command." On the bridge of Earth's flagship, Captain Scott Miller received the transmission. Admiral Ramirez had been injured in an earlier exchange, leaving Miller in command. "This is Commander Jorax of the Zyraxian Confederation," came the solemn voice. "I request terms for cessation of hostilities." Miller exchanged glances with Ambassador Grant, who had joined the command team to handle any diplomatic developments. "This is Captain Miller of Earth," he responded. "We accept your request for surrender. All Zyraxian vessels will power down weapons and prepare for boarding. Your forces will withdraw from all human colonies immediately." 2 days later, in a formal ceremony aboard a neutral vessel, Commander Jorax signed the surrender documents. Present were representatives from Earth and all former Confederation species who had joined the Alliance. President Mitchell spoke via secure transmission from Earth. "Today marks not an end, but a beginning," she said. "We propose a new galactic coalition built on mutual respect and shared governance. No species will dominate another." In the weeks that followed, humans showed a side the Zyraxians hadn't expected. There were no executions of Confederation leaders, no enslavement of defeated peoples. Instead, Earth led negotiations for a new interstellar agreement, with all species having equal representation. 6 months after the final battle, the new Galactic Coalition established its headquarters on a neutral planet at the borders of former Confederation space. Representatives from 27 species gathered for the inaugural council meeting. Dr. Eliax, who had been pardoned for his efforts to warn the Zeraxian leadership, now served as a key advisor to the coalition. As he entered the Grand Council chamber, he noticed a memorial wall being installed. The memorial honored those who had fallen in what was now called the Resistance War. At its center was a simple plaque with words written in multiple languages. They ignored the warnings about humans and paid the quintessential price. On Earth, life began returning to normal, though forever changed by the knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe. The technology gained during the conflict accelerated human development by centuries. Ambassador Nicol Grant stood on the observation deck of the new coalition embassy in Geneva, watching the sunset. Despite all the diplomatic challenges ahead, she felt a profound sense of hope. "Beautiful view," said a voice behind her. It was Admiral Ramirez, finally recovered from her injuries. "It is," Grant agreed. "Hard to believe just a year ago, we were facing extinction." Ramirez nodded. The Zeraxians thought they were dealing with primitive creatures who would simply submit to superior technology. Their mistake was thinking technology alone determined superiority, Grant replied. They didn't understand that humans have been overcoming stronger adversaries throughout our entire history. In deep space, a Zeraxian education vessel updated its entry on humans in the Galactic database. The new entry began with a warning. "Approach with respect and honest intentions. This species possesses remarkable adaptability and determination. When threatened, they unite despite their differences and innovate solutions to seemingly impossible problems." The fall of the ancient Confederation stands as testimony to the grave error of underestimating humanity. Far across the galaxy, other civilizations received this update and took note. Some with concern, others with curiosity, but all with a new understanding. The beings from the small blue planet had earned their place among the stars.